Hi everyone, welcome to THT, and today we're going to talk about the Epic Battles episode 1. So today I would like to do something very special for the community. It is kind of my gift to you for Christmas in terms of actual content that you can use in the game that you can play with your friends. And this first episode is going to feature the Battle of Geonosis. So of course, first question you're probably wondering is, what are epic battles? So epic battles are basically gonna be everything you need to know to play your own epic narrative battles for Star Wars Unlimited. So the idea is to recreate famous battles of the Star Wars saga in a balanced scenario. So obviously I've tried to design those scenarios to be as balanced as possible. Obviously, don't expect them to be perfectly balanced, but I would say that they are probably balanced for at least the first 2 times you're going to play them. At least they're going to be balanced for the first 2 times. If you start to push it further, maybe there might be some stuff that appear, but those scenarios are not meant to be played multiple times. They are supposed to be a one-off fun thing that you can do with your friend and play Star Wars Unlimited in a more casual setting. You might be very surprised to see me engage into more casual content, and the reason why I do so is because I think that even for competitive players, it is important sometimes to take a break from playing competitive play and try to play the game in other ways, just to relax and enjoy the game in different ways. So I also happen to be a game designer, so I actually like to design rules and stuff that people can play with. So for me, it is a good opportunity to display another way to play the game that maybe you've never thought about before. Another thing as well is Star Wars Unlimited is obviously a Star Wars themed game, so I would say that would be a shame if we were not going to take that opportunity in order to kind of to recreate certain epic moments of the Star Wars trilogies between the shows and the movies. The saga has plenty of great opportunities and great epic battles that I think would be very fun to recreate for Star Wars Unlimited. The first scenario is going to be the first battle of Geonosis, which is the massive battle that you see at the end of episode 2, the clone, and it is effectively the conflict that will ignite the Clone Wars. It is basically the episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and basically in these battles it's a scenario for 4 players. In these scenarios, there's going to be 2 separatist players versus 2 players playing as the Republic. So it is not a free-for-all like you would have in Twin Suns. It's going to be a team game where 2 players that are going to control the Separatists, 2 players are going to be controlling the force of the Republic. So the objective is different depending on which team you are on. So if you are part of the objective for the Separatists is to destroy the base of each Republic player, so just like in a regular game. The 2 bases are called the landing zone. So the Republic players are gonna have a specific base for that scenario, and both players are gonna have a landing zone. And if you take this landing zone to 0 HP, you've destroyed that base, and you're gonna go on and destroy the other base. And once the 2 bases are destroyed, the Separatists have won the game. For the Republican, the objective is to destroy the manufactory base, the droid manufactory. So there's absolutely, so the droid manufactory, there's only one, and it's a 50 HP base. So basically the Republic have to destroy one big 50 HP base, while the Separatists have to destroy 2 30 HP base. So you would notice that the objective of the Republic is slightly easier. It's slightly easier because you have 10 less HP on that base, and also I would argue that destroying one base is easier to destroy 30 HP base. But there's additional rules that will balance things out. So one of the special rules of this scenario. So the first rule is, just my camera is on the way. I'm just gonna move it around. There you go. Move it around so you can clear the Dory manufactory here. Anyway, What are the special rules for the scenario? So rule number 1 is that just like in Twin Suns, we got a blast, a plan, and an initiative token. So player cannot soft pass and have to claim one of the 3 tokens. So it's just the exact same rule as in Twin Suns. You get the players will basically grab the initiative, grab the plan token, grab the blast. They cannot just pass. They have to grab one of those tokens in order to, whenever there's nothing else they want to play, throughout the turn. The only exception to this rule is that the blast token, instead of dealing damage to all the other players, it only deals damage to one of the opponent base. So obviously the separatists will have 2 base, one controlled by one player and one controlled by the other, and they get to choose which base they want to deal 1 damage to. So you cannot just deal 1 damage to each of the opponent players with the blast tokens. The other rules are that each player has a dedicated custom base with their own special rules. We're not playing with regular bases, we're playing with special custom base, which we'll go into detail later on. Moving on, when a player has their base destroyed, they are not eliminated. So one thing is that the game is over and players are eliminated out of the game, pushed out of the game only when the scenario, one of the team has completed their objectives. There's no such thing as player elimination. So if your base is destroyed, you cannot repair your base. Any special rule that this base has, so for example, if you have the droid manufactory, which allows you to get 2 tokens out whenever you deploy your leader, the ability will not be effective anymore, even though, of course, it doesn't really matter because that's a bad example, because if the droid manufactory is destroyed, the game is over. But yeah, basically the special rules does not apply anymore. However, you can still use the aspect of the base to, obviously, to play your cards. So it's only just what is written in the text box that doesn't apply anymore. Yeah, but you basically, if your base is destroyed, you can still play the game. You cannot repair, you cannot heal your base, however, obviously. So unit base leaders upgrades controlled by your ally do not count as friendly, but they do not count as an opponent's unit either. So basically, for the sake of simplicity and to avoid like silly crazy combo, and to also keep the power level of the card under control, it was important to us that units that are part of your allies are not counted as friendly units, because if that was the case, there's a lot of different abilities that would be completely busted. It would basically completely change the balance of the game, and I was not willing to break the wheel that badly, so I've decided to say, well, keep it simple. Whenever there's a card that basically refers to an opponent units or an opponent upgrades or leader base or whatever, then it applies to the opponent upgrade base, not your ally. However, when there's something that refers to friendly units, it can only be your own units that you control, not the one of your friend, not the one of your ally. So that's something that is quite an important rule to keep in mind. So now let's get into details about the different deck lists. So one of the player is going to be controlling the Count Dooku. So Count Dooku is going to be a yellow command villainy deck. And his base is going to be the Petronaki Arena. So the Petronaki Arena, of course, is the arena where the entire separatist groups are kind of gathered at the moment of the attack of the clones. And this is the moment where Anakin, Padme, and Obi-Wan are kind of fighting in that arena for their survival. And that's the moment where they're going to get rescued. So talking about the base is a 10 HP base, a very weak base. It still does give the +1 attack bonus to your leader, but it basically only applies to your leader, to Count Dooku in this case. No, it doesn't apply to your ally leader. And the Petronaki Arena is completely optional. Destroying the Petronaki Arena doesn't actually advance your win condition. You could basically just focus on destroying the droid manufactory without ever paying attention to the Petronaki Arena. However, if you do, there's strong bonuses. So it's kind of like an optional quest for the Republic players. You don't have to destroy it, but if they do, The Rex player will take control of Anakin and Padme. When those units go under your control, they come into play exhausted, just like if they were like rescued. And the Yoda player will take control of Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan, the leader, but it would be on its unit side, and once again, all those units comes into play exhausted. So basically, this is of course to represent the fact that you've basically freed Anakin, Padme, and Obi-Wan. So for the Anakin, we're talking about the Anakin unit, and for Padme, we're talking about the Padme unit. And since we don't have an Obi-Wan unit, at least not a young Obi-Wan unit, we are using in this case the leader, the unit side of the leader. About the deck itself, as you can see, it is not a competitive, it's not built to be particularly competitive. Obviously, the objective of those lists is to be thematic. So obviously all the kind of droids that you're going to be seeing in the movies, in the Attack of the Clones, are going to be represented here. So the super battle droids, obviously a shit ton of battle droids. Obviously, there's of course a lot of exhaust. The vehicles that we're seeing in the battles are obviously featured. They got a couple of removal. It is on purpose that there's not a lot of removal, is because the idea, of course, of this scenario is to represent massive scale battles. So if you put too many removal in a deck, it's gonna go against that idea because it's gonna keep the board clean. And for that exact same reason, there's actually no AoE, no board wipe in this set. There's no like dealing damage to all units, because once again, to avoid keeping the board clean, we want a board that is crowded of units, that has tons of droids all over the place, because that's supposed to be an epic battle. So there's a couple of cool, interesting synergies here. We got the Inappropriate Among Thieves and the Change of Hearts, which can be combined with Count Dooku to take control of an opponent unit and then get rid of it, that kind of thing. So the fun things with Count Dooku, obviously Count Dooku can give exploit to anything. We got tons of ways to put droids down, and we got tons of ways to. So obviously those lists are mainly built to be thematic and to represent the forces that are fighting in this conflict. They're not meant to be. As you can see, also it is mostly based on ground. There's very few space units in this specific deck list. Is because in all the deck lists, because obviously the Battle of Geonosis is primarily a ground battle, so I wanted to focus more on the ground aspect and on interacting and basically having tons of ground units. The second deck list is a Ngunray, which is going to be controlled by the other Separatist player, and he's going to be the one controlling the base that needs to be protected. That means that if you have a Sentinel unit, let's say if the Dooku player has a Sentinel unit, it will only protect his base, while if not Ngunray has a Sentinel unit, it will protect the droid manufactory. So that's basically how it's supposed to work. The not Ngunray player, of course, is the one protecting his base, and it has of course a massive base of 50 HP base. And whenever he deploys this leader, he gets to get 2 battle droid extra. So the idea is the same as for the Dooku deck. It is mostly just a bunch of droids and a bunch of exploit stuff, as you can expect. This time we got a couple of hard removal, like Takedown, Vanquish, Rival's Fall, but still, of course, proportionally to the size of the deck, it's still a very few removal compared to... there's very few removal compared to the rest of the deck. And we'll play, of course, the vehicles once again that we see in the Battle of Geonosis, the Overwhelming Barrage, which are going to be super important in this particular set, even though there's only one copy of it. And the idea is to protect yourself. Those are basically 50 cards deck, if you wondered. And yeah, that's basically the list of Not. Next, we got basically Captain Rex. So this is the first Republic player. And as you can see, this is, of course, as you can expect, tons of clones, coordinate, with a couple of Jedis. Of course, since there were a lot of Jedis in the Battle of Geonosis. So we get ourselves like the Mace Windu, and even some like powerful late game cards like the ATTE, the Endless Legions. So the bases of the Republic players actually have a downside on them. So basically what happened is that whenever the 10th damage is being dealt on the landing zone, the Rex player will have to defeat one of his missiles as well as discard a card. And the same rule applies on the 20th damage. So the way that works is like this only works for the first time the damage is being dealt. So let's say you get yourself 10 damage on your landing zone or 13 damage on your landing zone. You have to defeat a resource, discard a card, and let's say you healed your base for 4, now you're back to 9. Your opponent redeals you up to 10 damage. You don't have to reapply the effect. The effect only applies once per threshold. So threshold is at 10 and then 20. So if, let's say, your opponent deals like 20 damage all at once, it will basically reach both thresholds simultaneously, which means that you have to defeat 2 resources and discard a card. This is kind of here to represent the idea that the Separatist player is destroying the transports, preventing reinforcement from coming to the clone player. So that's kind of like the idea. It also, of course, here as a downside to counterbalance the fact that obviously the Republican players can get themselves free units from destroying the Petronaki arena. So this is kind of here to make up for that disadvantage. So about the decklist, there's really not much to say about, just a bunch of clones trying to turn on Coordinate. I would say Coordinate will be quite easy to turn on in this scenario because there's tons of swarm units that allows you to make this very easy. And there's not a lot of, there's no really any AoE. The best AoEs you're going to have is going to be Overwhelming Barrage. So the clones here can very easily turn on their Coordinates. So Coordinate is just ridiculously easy to turn on in this specific deck. We get a couple of removals as well, but those are mostly focused on like cheap removals, like Open Fire, the Grenade Strike, and the Daring Raid. So moving on to the, so I'm gonna move my camera over here. Oops, sorry. So just double checking the list here, just in case I was covering them. Here we go. And now we move on to the Yoda, the list of Yoda. So he has exactly the same base as the Rex player, but this time with a yellow base instead of a red base. And basically the deck list is pretty much the same, with just with a different set of colors. Bunch of units that allow you to populate the board with a bunch of units. And the Coordinate kind of shenanigans. I also added You're My Only Hope to the Yoda deck, 3 copies of You're My Only Hope in order to combine with Yoda's ability, in order to put some big stuff earlier in the game. And some Jedi's Lightsaber. It's a bit more Jedi focus, the Yoda deck, but it's pretty much the same idea of like Coordinate and put a bunch of stuff on the board. And that's it. That's basically the full deck list. So now let's talk a little bit about the different components that you need in order to play this scenario. So obviously you need 4 players, and you're going to need, of course, the 4 deck list. Obviously, those deck lists are not meant to, they're not like perfectly tweaked. You can completely modify them as you see fit. Let's say you're missing one of the legendaries to play the scenarios. You can completely instead play something else. That is not a problem. I would just advise against running any sort of like board wipe, like something like Bloodsport or because I think things like Bloodsport or obviously Super Laser Blast, or because I think it will go against the spirit of the scenario, which is meant to be like a full-on warfare where the board is going to be massive. So I think if you're playing one of those AoE mass board wipe thing, it will go against the spirit of the scenario. So I would advise against that. But other than this, you can pretty much just change it everything you want and see how it goes. Obviously, the idea is to stay thematic and to keep stuff that are contained in the Clone Wars. And me, I went even further than this. I really focused on really the kind of unit that we actually seeing in the movies that were actually present in the battle. Next we got, of course, the 4 custom base that you need to have. So on this, there's different ways to go about it. You can either decide to proxy them and just remember what they do. For example, the Petronaki Arena, you just have to remember it's a 10 HP base and that it frees the unit when it gets destroyed. Like it's not complicated, so you can just decide to not have those being printed, but just basically just remember what they do. Or you could simply just take your mobile phone and put obviously like a screenshot of the base, and then put it on the board, and then that's basically your base, so you don't have to print it. It works very well if you're just doing this once, and if you're not using your phone for the rest of the game, which I think is a good idea, by the way. It's a good rule. Don't use your phone while playing Star Wars Limited. And the third solution, obviously the best one, is to obviously print the base and then have it in a sleeve, so you can put it on the board and you have the rules of the base written on it. Which is not; those are not complicated rules, so you can just remember them if needed. But it's works fine. Then we got you obviously need the Anakin unit, the Padme unit, and Obi-Wan as a leader. So you're gonna need those 3 cards on the side, because those are obviously gonna be freed if the Petronaki arena gets destroyed. You get to free all 3 of those units. So it is and so the Anakin Skywalkers and Padme go under the control of the Rex player, while the Obi-Wan goes into the control of the Yoda player. So something to worth noticing is that if Obi-Wan gets defeated, he gets to come back as a leader. It gets to come back as a leader under your control, which means that you can use his leader's ability. So that's something worth noticing. Obviously, if Anakin's and Padme gets defeated, then you just go to the discard, nothing special. But if Obi-Wan gets defeated, he gets to come back as a leader, and you get to use his ability as a leader. So yeah, and then you also gonna need the Twin Suns tokens, which I'm assuming you already have if you're playing Twin Suns. And then finally, last but not least, you're gonna need a lot of battle droids and clone tokens, because you're gonna need them. The scenario is designed to put a plethora of tokens into play on both sides for the most epic conflict possible. Anyway, thank you so much for following this video. I hope you like this kind of content. If you would like to see more epic battles and narrative play, and maybe more casual content on this channel, please let me know. This obviously for me is an experiment into kind of like trying something very different. So let me know if you like that, and if you do, I'll make more of them that you can use. And of course, if you have any feedback on how to improve the scenario, it is obviously very welcome. I will pin any comments that I think really improve the scenario. I will pin it, and people can just read that and see if they can improve. Obviously, if you need to check the rules of the scenario in a written form and not under a video, I've asked the Garbage Roller website to publish an article that I wrote, which has all the rules in written form for the scenario that you can read. And this obviously it's much easier to refer to a written article than to a video whenever you are doing something like this. So if you want to have all those rules in a written form, you can just check this article and it will have everything you need. So it also contains a few more more specific things. I don't pretend to have the rules completely proof to any issues whatsoever. There's definitely going to be some rule issues, but this is not meant to be taken seriously. It's meant to be taken as a casual, fun experience. So if there's anything that is not entirely clear on the rules, just roll it out. Just use the thing that makes the most sense. And if you can't make up your mind, you can just roll it off. Who has the highest roll decides how it works. And so on and so forth. It's, once again, supposed to be casual experience. Don't take this too seriously, and everything will be fine. Anyway, thanks to the Garbage Roller for supporting me on this specific project. And once again, if you like this kind of content, please let me know and like and subscribe to the video. That helps immensely. Thank you so much, and I wish a Merry Christmas to everybody in the community, and we'll see you on the other side after Christmas for more video. Thank you so much, and see you next time.